Welcome back, guys. This is Arnaldo, aka Maddog, and this is The Real, episode 219.5 of GG's The Mouthful Podcast. GG! Turns out, guys, I'm by myself today. Unfortunately, Mr. David Santos, aka Dream Twister, has had some technical difficulties with his rig, and will unfortunately not be joining us this week. And by us, I mean you and myself. And then, of course, Mr. Chaos Reaper, aka Gilberto, is unfortunately working. So it comes down to it being just a one-man show. There's one thing I think that the Mouthful Podcast prides itself on, is that nothing stops the signal. And so today, probably be a little bit of a truncated episode, but still, we want to have content out for you guys to enjoy, and hopefully I don't bore you to death. But yes, so our hot topic, which was scheduled for this week, which should be a review or a revisit and review of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait till next week. I will, of course, post the update on the group so that everybody is aware of it. But I will also post this particular episode so you guys can enjoy my melodious voice. And please do not message me and insult me that my voice is not melodious. I know that it's melodious, regardless of what you say. I just like saying melodious, for the record. Anyway, what we normally in podcasting for the Mouthful, what we normally do, guys, is go into what we have been up to, move on into various news items, and then finish with our hot topic of the week. This week, I will be doing sort of the same, kind of keep it going so we can keep the tradition going. However, it'll just be what I've been doing. I will roll through some news items, and I do have a particular hot topic of the week, which I will... actually, you know what? We'll keep that for the hot topic itself. I'll leave that as a surprise. In the meantime, what I'd love you guys to do is, if you can go to goodgame.rocks, join the conversation there. That takes you right to our Facebook group. It's a great Facebook group, and it's been on, since 2013-ish, somewhere around there. And then, of course, please, if you're listening to this on any of the podcast services, YouTube, wherever it's at, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast with everyone. All right, guys. So let's start with what we always start with, and that is, what have we been up to? So really is, what have I been up to? Well, I, first off, am in my second playthrough of The Last of Us 2. And I think that, personally, this particular game is growing on me. I was very big on saying that the first one was superior to Last of Us 2. However, as I've been playing, I realized I don't want to stop playing. There was a point that I did want to stop, and I obviously don't want to go into details to spoil anything for anybody who may be listening and have not played the game. However, there was a point where I was like, ooh, I don't know if I want to keep going. And of course, I did mention how the game is probably a few hours too long. And as with all games, things can get repetitive, but at some point, it's almost to the point where you're almost dreading seeing another group of enemies, whatever those enemies may be. You know, at some point, you're like, I really just want to get to, point B that I've been trying to get to for the last 3 hours. And here goes another group of enemies that I either try to sneak by or take them all out so that I can comfortably, rummage through and find items and stuff. However, in my second playthrough, I realized that, going back to the first one, after I passed a certain point, I was really enjoying it again. And I really I really, really think the game grew on me, particularly by the end. Is it going to be for everybody? No, it's going to be divisive, and I think that's good. I think that's a good thing that not everything is for everybody. And if I think even if I sat on the end of the spectrum that did not like where the story took me, I can still comfortably say that it's a great game. You know what I mean? I've used a comparison before with a movie called $1 Million Baby. $1 Million Baby, if you don't know, is a movie, Clint Eastwood film, and I forgot the actress name. She's a well-known actress, but anyway, the point is that I saw the movie the first time, and I was devastated. I was like, I cannot believe this film. Now, I won't spoil it, but let's just say it's not a happy story overall, and it's just one of those things where it's like, why would anybody watch this? Now, I will admit that I will never watch it again. I won't warn people. I will let them know it's a very good film, but I will never watch it again. That said, I will say it's a good film. I'm not going to hide away from it. It's a well-made film. I just don't care where the story went or some of the choices it did, but that doesn't make it bad. It just makes it not for me. So same thing with Last of Us 2. I think that if you really, really open up and just kind of take in the story for what it is, what they're trying to tell you, you can take a lot away from it. And it's not as stupid or as silly as a lot of people have made it where, oh, it's talking about the circle of violence and we know violence is not good and blah, 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 blah. And I think what a lot of people miss is that in this particular world, violence is normal. You know what I mean? So it's the answer isn't, hey, violence is not good. It's, this is normal. But even the new normal has to have its limits. And I think that's kind of the message I pulled away from it. And I love all the characters and how they did pretty much everything. And so in my second playthrough, I've adjusted the difficulty a little bit because the New Game Plus gives you a plus mode, basically. So every difficulty has that difficulty plus. So I think the standard difficulty is moderate. So when you play it again, it's no longer moderate, it's moderate plus. So it's a little bit more difficult than moderate. And then if you go, but you can't, you got to be careful when switching it, because if you're switching it, all of those difficulties are now plus. So you can't actually go down to light, because it's going to be light plus, which is not the old light. So it's a little bit odd, but there are ways of customizing it. And so what I did is I customized it to the fact that this is on my second playthrough. Items are not as scarce. They're still scarce, but not as scarce. And I think that was basically it. That's that one. There was one other thing, and it was just like one's notch on a 5-notch bar where I went up or down on it, and it's made the game, obviously, and knowing where to go and knowing what to expect, that also makes it easier anyway, because you already know where the scares and stuff are coming from. But the second playthrough, I'm really realizing how much I really dig this world. I dig Ellie. I dig everything about it. It is hard to play in the sense that it's like $1 Million Baby was not a easy story to digest. And unfortunately, it's not a happy tale. You know what I mean? But I don't think Last of Us ever was. And if you knew that going in because you played the other one before, there really shouldn't be any surprises there. So anyway, so I'm about halfway on my second playthrough, and probably will not make it through to the end because I know that Ghost of Tsushima is coming out this week, and I'm kind of looking forward to that one, particularly because I can't wait to play the the samurai cinema mode in black and white. I think I might play the entire game that way. But anyway, so yeah, that's Last of Us 2. I have been playing a lot of Gwent on my phone, and I've been just burning out. I realized that I do it on when I'm just sitting and nothing's happening, I can't play a game because somebody's watching a movie or something like that, and so I just pick up my phone and challenge. And obviously, you're playing other people online, so this is an online game, and it's just such a rewarding game. CD Projekt Red has really struck something amazing here with Gwent, and there's so many little intricacies to how you play. I started with the monster deck, and so if you know anything about Gwent, if you don't know about Gwent, let me just explain. You have these factions you can use to create your own deck. The factions are you have the monster faction, you have the Scoia'tael, which are the elves, the Northern Realms, which are the Northern Realms of humans. Then you have there's 5 of them basically, but I started off with the monster faction, which has its advantages. Obviously, the creatures can destroy. It's funny because they can destroy their own players and get extra strong. So there's a little bit of a strategy behind that. But once you develop that strategy, it's like, okay, well, I want to try something else. So I've kind of moved on to the Scoia'tael, which are the elves, which are a little bit more sneaky and stuff like that. And so it is. It's just such a rewarding game. I cannot express that. If anybody is into the other Hearthstone, this is not the same in the sense that it is a card battle game essentially, but it is not the same. I think there's a little bit more to. I played Hearthstone. I think there's maybe a little bit more to this that can add to the complication, but at the same time, like I said, once you get it, man, it's just so freaking rewarding. But yeah, so been playing a lot of that, and that's really all I've been playing as far as gaming. I have watched some stuff. First off, I've been watching a lot, probably too much Hamilton at this point. I understand the criticisms of the actual movie itself. If you don't know, it is basically a recording of a live Broadway play. So it's not like it's a movie. It's an actual recording. So it's, but it's really, really well done. Some of the stuff, like I mentioned, I may have mentioned before, where certain angles aren't to the best, like somebody in a film would want to have the whole stage at certain part of the play, the camera, so that it sees the whole stage, and other parts you want to have some close-ups. For me, who went to see it live, I sat all the way in the back. So while I even loved it then, so that's a testament to how good the show is itself, because I was really far back and still fell in love with it. To see it here and to have it really close up and see facial expressions and all that, it really, really adds a lot of time. My wife and I think we've already seen it at least 7-8 times each so far since its release, and we're probably going to watch it again soon, if not maybe later on tonight. But anyway, so we've watched that, and I've also obviously we watched Scott Pilgrim. That was going to be our hot topic, but again, we'll go ahead and punt that till next week. I did go back and watch a little bit of an older film. It is called Gilda, and it's a 1946 film. The reason I watched it is, I don't know if anybody have seen Shawshank Redemption. I feel like I may be aging myself here, but Shawshank Redemption is probably one of the best films of all time, and no, that is not an exaggeration. If you haven't watched it, watch this freaking film. Anyway, there is a moment within the movie where they're watching a movie within a movie in the jail, and they're actually watching Gilda, and that's the first time I ever saw Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth, if you don't know, she's an actress from obviously she's an actress from those days, and she is actually of Spanish descent, half at least. Her father is Spanish. Her mother is actually Hayworth, is where her last name comes from, her mom's side, and Rita is obviously short for Margarita. And so to see, granted, someone who can easily fit in as Caucasian during the time, but probably the only reason why she made it so big at the time was because of that. Still, it was interesting to see her on stage is just a lovely, beautiful woman. For obvious, I mean, not that she aged poorly or anything like that, but she was very beautiful in the film, and it was just great to see. Like, man, you know what? We had some footsteps in there. Father was actually Spanish, so from Spain, and there's some controversy there where apparently he may have molested her in some way. So maybe that's not such a great thing for Spanish folks, but still, as a woman at the time, also coming from a Spanish background, it's good to see, and it was a great film on top of that to boot. Highly recommend. Again, that movie is called Gilda, and it's very popular. It's available on Prime. That's how I was able to watch it. Also starring Glenn Ford, which is probably a name you've heard before. Maybe not. I don't know. Again, I'm old, so it is what it is. So yeah, those are the things that I've been doing this week. And give me a few minutes. Be right back with some news items for you guys. Guys, I am back, and it is now time for our trailer of the week. Sounds a little different when it's just me, but actually sounds a little sad too, right? Oh man, I should probably edit that out. But anyway, trailer of the week, guys, is a little title called Transformers: War on Cybertron, and it is coming to Netflix, and it's coming to Netflix as a trilogy. So yeah, I'm going to obviously post this on the group. It may be already on the group. I think I saw Alexander post this, but just in case, I will, put it up there for you. So essentially, War for Cybertron trilogy is a new anime-inspired series from Netflix and Rooster Teeth, and it's gloomy and existential. Maybe all the warring was for nothing. Maybe there's no beating old Megatron. This is, of course, I'm reading from Polygon. The War on Cybertron isn't going full Jarhead. The new Transformers series has a grit and darkness that seems to lend to the drama. Seems to lend drama to a level of reality that a billion jagged pixels couldn't do in live action. So this is War, and it is intense. Looking at the trailer, I gotta say, it looks pretty decent. I'm not sure if I care for the art style so much. Looks a little bit CG mixed with animation, which is not a bad thing per se, but it is just, I don't know. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to my animes, and love just seeing regular art being hand-drawn art essentially. So so the trailer of the week, guys, is going to be Transformers War on Cybertron trilogy. Oh, and the first part is actually called Siege. That's part 1 of the trilogy, which premieres on July 30th. Part 2 is called Earth Rise. And part 3, unfortunately, does not have a title or release date. So we'll see when that comes around. There's actually an anime series on Netflix that is also a 3-part film sort of series. And actually, it's Godzilla. And I started watching. It's actually not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And so it looks like they're kind of taking the same approach here when it comes to the Transformers. So we'll see if that amounts to anything. Next piece of news: book sequel to Ready Player One is coming in November. Ernest Cline's Ready Player One is getting a sequel called, you guessed it, Ready Player 2. The novel is set to debut November 24th in North America, according to The Hollywood Reporter, which is where I'm getting this from. Cline has previously confirmed in 2017 that he was working on the novel, Ballantine Books, a subsidiary of Penguin Random House, will publish the book, which is available for pre-order now. There are no further details available on the book's plot, which will take place after the events of Ready Player One. Ready Player One was published in 2011 in 58 countries, also according to Hollywood Reporter. So I don't know how you guys feel. I hear that the book is a much better version of this tale. I saw the film, and while the film was okay, it didn't exactly blow me away. And I don't think it blew anybody away. When you look at the critical reception that it had, I don't think anybody was like, "Whoo, man, we can't wait for a sequel on this." But overall, I think it was okay. I think it had some missed opportunities. I think it had a little bit of the normal Hollywood glamorizing characters probably look a little bit more, I don't know, gritty and maybe not as pretty. That, you know, they look a little CW here essentially, and so that's and of course if you read the book and know the book or anything of it, you know that some of these characters are not good looking on purpose, which is why they plug into the where is it, Pandora, whatever is it they're plugging into? I already forgot. The virtual world that they plug in, the Oasis, and so because their normal self is not as appealing than their virtual self. So obviously, when you look at the characters in the film, you go, "What are they hiding from? They look just fine." You know what I mean? It's obviously that's just what happens with Hollywood. But anyway, so look forward to that. Again, that's Ready Player One, expected to be released. The book sequel coming this November. All right, moving on to the next piece here. I've got actually a lot of little pieces, and you know what? I'm taking advantage of the fact that it's just me, and just going to spill all these pieces out. That's just how we're going to do today, guys. I don't have, Dream Twister yelling. I don't have Chaos saying, "Fuck that." Not that he says "fuck that," but, he sounds like somebody who can just say "fuck that," right? But anyway, moving on to my next piece. Sony invests $250 million into Epic Games. This is an interesting one, and I'm not sure. Well, let me just read the story for you here. Sony is making a $250 million investment in Fortnite and the Unreal Engine developer Epic Games, acquiring a minority interest in the studio, both companies announced on Thursday. According to a joint release, the investment will allow Sony and Epic to, quote, broaden their collaboration across Sony's leading portfolio of entertainment assets and technology, and Epic's social entertainment platform and digital ecosystem to create unique experiences for consumers and creators, end quote. The investment solidifies an already close relationship between the two technology companies, a relationship that was recently affirmed in May when Epic revealed Unreal Engine 5 running in real time on the Sony's PlayStation 5 console. So I'm of two minds with this particular news. First off, I kind of feel it's a big to do about nothing. So if you don't know who Epic is, first off, what the hell? Epic is the obviously owners of Fortnite. They run the Epic Games Store. They are the developers of the Unreal Engine. So these guys are basically, at this point in time, printing money, essentially. And so I was listening to another podcast, and they were able to kind of break down what $250 million, when they say minority stakeholder, into Epic, $250 million is just under 2% of the company. That's a drop in the bucket, guys. That's really not a lot. It's a little odd to think about. It's like, well, what really is the point? What advantage are you getting from being a 8% stakeholder into this company? Tencent, which is a big corporation out of China, owns about somewhere in the 30%. You know what I mean? And they have a little bit more say. So it's like 1.1% or 1% of whatever. That's basically nothing. That said, something to think about here when you look at the little things that they'd have to get, right? So when you use, let's say you're developing a game, if you're developing a game and you use Unreal Engine, you get to use the assets for free. However, the kickback is when you actually sell the game, right? So they get a certain percentage of your revenue for selling the game just for using their engine. So it's easy to come in, and use their tools, but at the end they get their money back. Epic Games. So many games use Unreal because apparently it's a well-known program. It's well supported, obviously, through Epic. So obviously, and Sony has actually used this occasionally. So in here, if you think about it, now that you're a stakeholder, perhaps you don't have to pay royalties because you're part of the company. You're no longer a third party. You are a first party, essentially. So having access to the support that you would need at all times, because you're a stakeholder in the company, maybe not having to pay for said royalties, those type of things actually add up in the end when you start using that particular engine. So maybe, and on top of that, let's be real, maybe they're going to learn a little something to run an online store of some sort. Because if there's one thing that we can all agree with is that Sony's PlayStation Store can possibly use some sort of revamp. Not that the Epic Game Store is blowing anybody away. I mean, it is no Steam, but it's way better than PlayStation Store, because PlayStation Store it's okay at best and then really shitty on bad days. And then recently, I think we've heard, which I don't even have that story, believe it or not, but recently David Dream Twister posted on the group where people are losing their licenses to digital games that they already own. So what does that say about the Sony digital infrastructure? It's a little concerning. Maybe joining with Epic can help improve that in some way. Hopefully. We'll see. Maybe not. We'll see. All right. Moving on to my next piece, guys. I have here, I don't know if anybody's so interested, but I actually am. Matt Reeves, The Batman, which is the upcoming Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson, will get an HBO Max series spinoff. Max Reeves' upcoming Batman film serves to reboot the universe once again, and with a world bustling with villains. Period. While Robert Pattinson is under the cowl for the October 2021 blockbuster, the cast is set to include Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, Paul Dano as the Riddler, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, and potentially a few more surprises. Reeves imagined enough nooks and crannies in this expansive new version of the cinematic Gotham City that Warner Bros. Pictures' parent company, Warner Media, wants him to keep telling the story in a serialized fashion. An original DC drama set in the Gotham City Police Department, and is headed to HBO Max, and the company said in a new announcement. Well, we'll just stop it from there. Just kind of go into more specific. This is a quote. This is from Reeves. This is an amazing opportunity not only to expand the vision of the world I am creating in the film, but to explore it in the kind of depth and detail that only a long format can afford. And getting to work with incredibly talented Terrence Winter, who has written so insightfully and powerfully for worlds of crime and corruption, it is an absolute dream. So, what does this mean? So we're looking at getting this is a Gotham City PD, basically. There was an actual comic book series that was called, I want to say it was Gotham City PD, or something along those lines, which is actually pretty good. It was interesting because you were seeing everything through so it was basically a cop comic book or graphic novel, and it didn't have anybody with special powers, and because you were just following the PD around. Batman was, if he was ever in it, it was a shadow. It was something that was just out of the view of these normal cops, because realistically, Batman never really presents himself to anybody unless he wants to, right? The commissioner is pretty much the only one who has contact with him. And if you go back far enough to the Adam West series, he basically had a telephone that called Batman whenever he wanted to, but he was pretty much the only one who did. But for the most part, again, Batman being the type of you can call it ninja or samurai, whatever it is, that he just basically doesn't present himself unless he needs to. So here you were seeing the cops and how they had to deal with these villains. You know, the villains that Gotham City has, which arguably is probably the best rogues library of any hero, and also probably some of the most dangerous, if you really look at it that way. So the Gotham PD, it sounded silly at first, and it was like, well, who the hell cares about following these cops around? You know what I mean? But it made sense. It added a level of grittiness. It added a level of realism, and if you can attach yourself to a character, you would fear for them a little bit, because you would see, wow, man, you know, it's one thing when Batman has to deal with Mr. Freeze, but man, this officer such and such, man, he's going to get his ass handed to him here, you know, but he's a cool guy. He's got a wife and daughter, you know, all this craziness. So I can definitely see that if it worked somewhat in a graphic novel, but I can definitely see that working in a series, but it has to have some sort of balancing act, right? Because if there's one problem with Gotham City rogues, it's that only Batman can handle them, you know. And if you're going to have a show that doesn't have Batman, then you're just going to have a bunch of cops getting their ass handed to them, and at the end of every episode, I guess they get saved, or the end of every season, or however they're going to do it. I guess it would depend on the film, right? Because we're going to have to see what the film, Robert Pattinson's Batman film, brings to the table, because he may have a different view of what Gotham is, and I hope it's not Joel Schumacher's view with the neon lights and all this craziness, but we can definitely see what it is. So I can see the potential that it being, and on top of that, for the record, HBO is HBO is the antithesis of Netflix, where it's like Netflix just greenlights everything, and that's not HBO. HBO vets everything and greenlights good shit. You know what I mean? You can go through HBO's library of series and films that they do, and you can definitely see quality all over the place. One of the best things they've recently made, which I can highly recommend everybody, which is another DC property, believe it or not, it's the Watchmen TV series that they did. It's a one season. It is a solidified season. I don't think they have said that they're going to do another season. I think they've been talking about it, but if they don't, you have a beginning and an end of the story they were trying to tell. So really, it's such a good series, especially if you like Watchmen in general. If you're a fan of, if you're not a fan of it, it may be a little confusing at first, but things start to fall into place. One of those, I love stories that don't hold your hand. You know what I mean? They're going to present you the information. It's not going to be an info dump anywhere. It's gonna trickle the information in, and you will eventually put it all together. And it will be so good by the end that you wouldn't actually mind watching it again. You know what I mean? It's like it merits a rewatch. So if there's one thing HBO does have in their favor, is that they're very good at that. So moving on to the next piece that I have. We only got 2 pieces left, 3 maybe, I don't know. Far Cry 6, Ubisoft's next-gen Far Cry leaks via the PlayStation Store. What did I say about the infrastructure of Sony's PlayStation Store, guys? It is a leaky boat, apparently. Details on the next Far Cry game from Ubisoft, Far Cry 6, leaked on Friday via Sony's PlayStation Store. According to screenshots of a listing of Far Cry 6, the game will star Giancarlo Esposito, perhaps best known for his role as Gus Fring on Breaking Bad, as the primary antagonist. There's one thing I can say. I'm off the article for the moment, guys. One thing I can definitely say is, man, Gus was awesome. Gus was one of those villains in a series. If you have not watched Breaking Bad, first off, what the hell are you doing with your life? Watch Breaking. It's on Netflix. Watch Breaking Bad. It is probably the best TV series since, I don't know, Hill Street Blues, whatever is something from the 60s and 70s. It's like one of the best series. So you're really like just wasting time in your life not watching this amazing series. I got to watch it again. Anyway, he plays a villain on that particular show, and such a well done villain. So to see that he's part of this has already piqued my interest. Even though I'm not a big Far Cry fan, I feel that Far Cry fans will most likely get a lot out of this. A listing for Far Cry 6, which appeared on Hong Kong version of PlayStation Store, shows a February 18th, 2021 release date. Ubisoft has not officially announced a new Far Cry, but now appears likely to do so on July 12th at its Ubisoft Forward Digital event. Esposito appears to be playing the role of dictator named Anton Castillo, according to a piece of artwork and a story description from the PlayStation Store listings that reads, quote, "Welcome to Yara, a tropical paradise frozen in time. As the dictator of Yara, Anton Castillo is intent on restoring his nation back to its former glory by any means, with his son Diego following in his bloody footsteps. Their ruthless oppression has ignited a revolution." So far, it looks there's not much on it because it is a leak. But yes, July 12th, which as of today is actually tomorrow, the Sunday. So by the time you hear this, it may already have been confirmed to be coming out and with a date. Players will take on the role of Danny Rojas, described as a local Yaran, and who becomes a guerrilla fighter to liberate the nation. Rojas will battle Anton's military on the largest Far Cry playground to date, across jungles, beaches, and Esperanza, the capital city of Yara. Employ makeshift weapons, vehicles, and amigos. The new fangs for hire to burn the tyrannical regime to the ground. So that's kind of where the game loses me. I'm not, as much as I love The Witcher 3, that's really an anomaly in my life. I'm not a big sandbox. And I think we can all agree that there's a difference between a sandbox game and an open world game. A sandbox is one of those things you just go around, do whatever you want, and just kind of fuck shit up. You know what I mean? What is this game comes to mind? I can't even think of it now. But anyway, Far Cry kind of fits into that sphere where it's like, hey, go around. You can take on anything the way you want. You can blow shit up. You can just do craziness. And your open worlds can have obviously a story, a more centralized focus when you're playing the open world, like for instance The Witcher and stuff like that. So I can get into some open worlds. They really have to grasp me, and but sandbox games generally not a big fan of. But that said, I do recognize that Ubisoft has created some of the most memorable characters in any video game, and to see that they are including Giancarlo Esposito into this, I think is a good thing. And I hope that Far Cry fans all over the place are excited. And I guess we'll find out tomorrow during the Ubisoft live event. All right. Second to last piece, guys. Assassin's Creed Valhalla release date leaked, launching this November. Looks like, I don't know if I can blame Sony on all this. This is another leak, but we all know that Ubisoft is, of all the boats in the sea of video game developers, Ubisoft is definitely the leakiest. It's basically the Black Pearl of video games. It's just got holes and just leaks all over the place. Anyway, an advertisement on Instagram. Let me start from here. A day ahead of Ubisoft Forward, that means it came out today, comes out Ubisoft Forward tomorrow. A deleted ad on Instagram has leaked the release date of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The Viking-themed installment will launch on November 17th on both Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. The ad, which was posted by the game's official Italian account, these Italians, show no new gameplay, but did end with the release date front and center. We've known since it's revealed that Valhalla was scheduled to launch sometime this year, but now know the exact date. For the record, I don't think this really shocks anyone. November 17th is pretty much the date. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd probably be just a few days off. I mean, that's just kind of where Ubisoft drops their big titles, the Assassin's Creed titles. It's just kind of where they go. So not really much of a shocker here, but still, again, leaky ship. Good to know. Assassin's Creed Valhalla will also launch, of course, on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and supports smart delivery on the former, of course. Far Cry 6 will support a free digital upgrade from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, so it's likely the same will be true for Valhalla. See, this is where I kind of sidebar here on the whole smart delivery thing. Smart delivery sounded like such an amazing thing. It's like, man, you get free, just it's going to be automatic, and you got it on here, you just boom, you get it immediately on PlayStation 5. That's genius. Of course, Sony comes in, doesn't really name it anything, just it's going to be upgraded for you for PlayStation 5. Kind of takes a sail out of the winds of the smart delivery, if you ask me, but interesting nonetheless. All right, guys, and my last piece here is more of a personal one for me, particularly. I'm pretty sure if you know me well enough, you know that when it comes to publishers, I'm not a big fan, mostly because, I get it. It's a company. They need to make money, regardless of what's going on. They're looking to make money. That said, when it comes to publishers, there's one that always stands out for me, and that is, of course, Devolver Digital. Not that they're not trying to make money. Of course, they're trying to make money, as all publishers are. But they love to do it on games that stand out as being original. And there's a particular one that I've been kind of looking forward to that has finally gotten a release date. The game where you play as a monster escaping from and terrorizing a research facility hits the Switch, Xbox One, and PC this month. Carrion's, we'll call it Carrion's. Carrion's release date has been revealed during the Devolver Digital Direct stream. And like a hideous monster stalking the ceiling grate above you while you monologue with tremendous hubris about how this room is the only safe area in the facility, it's much closer than you think. Carrion will launch on July 23rd, guys. That is literally 12 days away. So I'm probably going to just pre-order that. Demo is actually available right now on Steam. Physical edition will come to Switch eventually. GameSpot has an exclusive look at the first 25 minutes of the game, which you can watch on the video on their channel. Tread with caution if you're easily grossed out, though. The release date trailer should give you some idea of what to expect. You're a mess of viscera and tentacle. I was going to say testicles. Dear Lord. For the record, you guys might not have noticed, but I'm actually having a beer here. And it's a little bit of a high-proof beer because I'm by myself. And, people say you shouldn't drink by yourself because it leads to depressing. Not me. I don't get depressed. I get happy, even by myself. Fuck it. The release date trailer should give you some idea of what to expect. You're a mess of viscera and tentacles, and you'll be causing a lot of havoc as you escape from the facility that you're trapped in. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, I should probably I'm sure I already posted it at one point, but I'll post it again. You can definitely take a look to see that it's a crazy side-scrolling. It almost looks like it may be Metroidvania-like, but it's definitely a side-scrolling. You play as the blob, tentacle, crazy creature that a group of scientists created, and well, you're breaking out and escaping because you're tired of being experimented on, as anybody who would be locked up would be feeling. So, yeah, that's the game. It's called Carrion, spelled Carrion, the reverse horror monster game, coming out again on the 23rd. So I'm definitely going to jump on that bad boy. All right, guys. Well, that's all the news items I have. I'm sure Dreamy and Mr. Chaos Reaper had some news items that they would want to focus on, but since they're not here, we don't get to hear it. Maybe we'll hear it next week. I don't know. But stay tuned. I'll be right back with my hot topic. Take a sip here of my boom sauce. It is called boom sauce. That's what I'm drinking today. It is actually a double IPA, 7.8 alcohol per volume. I'm going to give props to the actual brewers. I can't even see it here. What the hell is the name of this shit? Lord Hobo Brewing. You gotta love that. Lord Hobo Brewing. And again, it's called Boom Sauce. And it's pretty good. Actually, it comes in a 16-ounce can, black can, very pretty, actually. And then it hits you. Let me tell you. It hits you. All right, guys. So, as I mentioned, hot topic of the week that we had posted, we're going to go ahead and punt till next week so that Dreamy and Chaos can come aboard. Since we had seen it, I might actually watch the movie again because, Scott Pilgrim is pretty awesome. But anyway, we'll have our review of that next week. So the surprise topic that I wanted to bring up this week, and it's really, I'm not even sure why I'm going to call it a surprise because it'll be posted on the post before you even listen to this. But anyway, if you happen not to read the post and you're just coming in, surprise. We're going to talk about the increase in gaming prices, particularly video game prices that have apparently looked to go up this next generation. Recently, we heard news from 2K that NBA 2K21 will be priced at $69.99 on next-gen console. That's $10 more expensive than on current devices. So, of course, that has brought into question why would they do this, and it's all over the place as far as what they feel. Frankly, I feel like we've brought this up on the podcast before, so I'll just bring it up again. I'm surprised that it took this long. I'm surprised that games are still this cheap. They shouldn't be. The cost has been going up throughout the years, and that's not a lie. That's the real deal. I think Sean Layden, which is from Sony's, he's used to be in Sony, not in Sony anymore, but he mentioned it in a post or an interview that it's impossible to think that they're going to get the same amount of money back after the cost of this going up so much. It has to go up. So I have this article, and looking it over, it's actually from gamesindustry.biz. And I like gamesindustry.biz because it really gives you sort of an insider look to stuff outside of the actual game itself, more on how the, let's say, the state of the industry is. So, according to this, after the announcement that NBA 2K will be priced at $69.99, other game publishers are considering raising the price of games on PlayStation 5 and Series X, says games research firm IDG Consulting. Speaking with GameIndustry.biz, President and CEO Yoshio Osaki says that game pricing has remained flat since 2005, whereas TV and movie pricing has increased significantly. The last time the next-gen console launch software pricing went up was in 2005 and 2006 when it went from $49.99 to $59.99 at the start of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 generation. Guys, that's 15 years ago. 15 years. What has not gone up in price in these last 15 years? Only games. That's right. Or only AAA games, right? Because as time has gone by with more indie titles, stuff like that, yes, we have titles that are obviously cheaper, that are not coming in at the standard $59.99. However, the $59.99 it has become the line when it comes to AAA, and it's just remained stagnant. And honestly, one can look at it and say, well, since it's remained stagnant, this is kind of where a lot of the stupid shit that the game industry has done has come in, right? You had originally your online passes, your season passes, microtransactions. All this stuff is like, well, if we can't raise the game, then perhaps we have to make it some other way, right? Because, I'm not going to be a corporate apologist here or anything like that, but let's call it what it is, guys. These things are not cheap to make, and nothing is, right? Everything goes up. Everything goes up. Going on to the article again, it mentions again, during that time, the costs and prices in other affiliated verticals have gone up. Osaki says that the next-gen console game production costs have increased by 200% to 300%, depending on the IP, studio, and genre, but the prices have remained the same at $59.99. Meanwhile, cinema ticket prices have risen 39% in that time. I know, because Dreamy and I have gone out to movies. It's just double dating, and I'm paying for me and my wife. We haven't even bought popcorn yet, and we're already at $32 or something like that, just for the ticket, $34. I remember it wasn't 15 years ago. It was probably a little more than that, but yeah, it was $7 to get a ticket. It was in New York. In New York, one of the highest prices places in the world, $7, $7.50 to go watch a movie. I probably saw July 4th? Independence Day. I probably saw Independence Day for $7. $7! All right, I'm going to stop yelling here. I feel like I may have blown somebody's ears off. But, I mean, the point is to say that those things go up. And do we want them to go up? Of course not. I mean, but inflation is inflation. I mean, it is what it is. A Netflix subscription, okay, costs have gone up 100%. I know. I paid $8 out the gate when Netflix came out, about back when they were still mailing out discs and shit, which, for the record, was actually really good. I'm not in any way insulting or anything like that, but yes, it was $8 when it first came out. I'll never forget that. And it was a deal. $8 a month. It's not $8 a month now. Especially now that I got the 4K package. It's not, and I have it on multiple sets. It's nowhere near $8 a month. So, and then of course, cable TV packages have of course risen 105%. But let's be real. I feel that cable TV is a little bit of a bunch of crooks. Quote, even with the increase to $69.99 for next gen, that price increase from 2005 to 2020 is only 17%, far lower than the other in comparison. While the cost of development and publishing has gone up, the pricing of other entertainment vertical has also gone up substantially. Next gen software pricing has not reflected these increases. $59.99 to $69.99 does not even cover these other cost increase completely, but it is a move in the right direction. So, what is it that I want to convey here today? First off, there is some conspiracy that, NBA 2K, as you know, is an annualized game. As an annualized game, you're going to end up, especially if you're into that particular, you're going to end up buying next year's and the year after that and whatever the case may be. You need the roster update, essentially. So you're going to buy into it. So that one already, if it's talking about that at $69.99, there is talk where when we talk about a real next-gen title, in the sense that it's a one-off, it's not an annualized thing where they can probably, an annualized game can probably stay at 60. It's annualized. They're not really, it's not that long of a development cycle. They're not really making that many changes. Always a little bit of update here and there. They can probably stay at 60 and be okay. Well, not be okay, but you know what I mean? It probably would make sense with it. They are moving up to $70. So when you think of, let's say, the next BioShock or the next, Horizon, it's possible we may be seeing that at $79.99 or more. Because it's like, well, these costs are going up, and the line has to move. Do I want to pay more? Of course not. Nobody wants to pay more. You know what I mean? But in a world where you get what you pay for, at this point, when you look at games from 2005, I should probably look up some games from 2005, but just think of a game from 2005 that came out. I mean, just think of the PlayStation 3 launch games, right? Picture those launch games now. And now look at the games that we're getting now. The Last of Us 2. That is an immaculately created game that took way more manpower, probably to the point of exhaustion to their team. But the point is, it took way more manpower to get that game going, and they're selling that game for the same price that they sold PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 launch games, which probably took less development time, not as much money up front, and you don't make the money. You're not making that money back. You know what I mean? And so when you start looking at these microtransactions, in a way, in a business sense, it kind of makes sense. Obviously, you don't want to have anything that is predatory. You know what I mean? And I get that. And I agree with that. You don't want anything predatory either. But you can start seeing why you have some of these DLCs that are cost more, an expansion pack or some sort of season pass that they want you to do and all this stuff. And you're like, because it just has to even out somehow. You know what I mean? So do I want game prices to go up? No. Do I think they have to? Yes, I think they do. I think they're behind also in not going up. And so I think this particular console generation that we're coming up to may significantly shock people into how much it's going to be. And let me tell you, it's definitely going to affect the sale of consoles, new consoles. Is it going to be a good or bad thing? I don't know. But I've already said, with coronavirus and everything that's going on in this world right now, there are people suffering who cannot pay. Yes, games are doing well. As an industry, is doing well in a recession. But things aren't getting better just yet. And people are still out of work. And eventually that money dries up. And as much as you like to spend on entertainment, you got to pay for some bills at some point. So when is it this year? Someone's going to be. We don't know what the prices of the next gen consoles are going to be, but we all expect them to be more than they've been before, which again makes sense, right? Everything's going up. You can't have another $400 console that is $400 now, and you look back, to 2013 when PlayStation 4 came out, and even then we're like, I can't believe they sold that for $400 because it had to be value more than that. Here we are with technology the way it is. That's going to be higher too. And so I think the buy-in for next gen is going to be significantly hard, although it's justified. I still think it's justified, for the record, because yes, like it or not, you have a lot of people who don't agree that the industry, you have people who can point out, oh, this company's making, God knows how much money over here for the business. Not all companies are. And half the time they're making money because they have one or two really good revenue streams. You know what I mean? And so those two revenue streams allow them to take chances outside of that. Because it's a business. A business has to keep its lights on. It has to be able to pay its people, unless you're going to go down like, Telltale. You got to be able to pay your people, pay the benefits, pay for your office space, and all that stuff goes up. None of that shit goes down, and it's just the way it is. So in essence, do I think it is important that do I think this is justifiable? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen? Yes, I think, yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if, again, when we get to a little bit further into the fall, that some of these first-party titles, first party being Xbox One exclusives, PlayStation 5 exclusives, or Xbox Series X exclusive and PlayStation 5 exclusive, are maybe a little bit more than $69.99. And I wouldn't blame it. I mean, is it hard? Am I going to wait for a sale every so often? I probably will. But every so often, I probably won't. Because, I mean, if I look back at, and I know I bring this game up a lot, but let's say The Witcher, or any of the other games like Control. Control is a more recent one. I bought the season pass because of how much I loved that game and everything that was in it. Now, did I buy the season pass up front? No, I didn't. I played the game first, saw what it was involved, loved it, bought the season pass. But keep in mind, there's still development behind that. You know what I mean? It's not like all that shit was made and then suddenly here they're releasing it now. No. They still have to go back to the drawing board and make some new content and then put it out. So there's cost behind that anyway. But essentially, if I'm going to be paying already, at this point, $90, right? Because you look at the stuff that they put in for Control, and I go back to The Witcher 3. I think I spent a good almost $100 in that game. You know what I mean? And it was well worth it. Maybe too worth it. The price of that game probably should have been higher than that overall, because just considering when you look at content in general. But yeah, I really just think that there's no option here, guys. And in the end, gaming is a luxury. It's not a right. It's not a privilege. It's a luxury. It's in the end, it's a toy. It's something to do. It's never become something that's required. It has been more accepted as time has gone by with esports and stuff like that. But in the end, it's still a luxury. And with all luxurious items, the price goes up with them, and they're not always easy to obtain, but that's the market that we're in. That's the toys and the gaming and everything. That's where that sits. So I feel that, unfortunately, this is a big thing. And I also feel that on the opposite end of that, even though I'm okay with the increase, on the opposite end of that, I think it's going to negatively affect next gen, because I really think releasing a $500 console and then having games anywhere between $70, $80 each, in a recession that we're in, borderline depression, it's not going to work. I've said it for a while. I felt like they should delay this, but I guess they're not. They seem to be hell bent on releasing it this year, and I don't know. I think this is going to be, it's going to be slow moving for them. It's not going to be like last generation where PlayStation 4 and Xbox One took off, in the beginning. It was flying out of the shelves, I don't think it's going to be like that here. I think it's going to be easy to obtain. I don't think it's going to hit the numbers like it did. Will it, in the end, after years of being out, hit it? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. But I think in the beginning, this generation, and the generation we're in now, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and the one prior, I think we're not going to see those kind of numbers. And it's really because of the way the market is right now and how the world is right now. But if you're already looking at a $500 console, $70, $80 per game, and these games are not going to go down immediately, you know what I mean? Especially when they're launch titles. It's just not going to happen, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to. Let's just say I don't think a lot of people are really going to jump on board early on, and it's not that they don't want to, it's just they can't. You know what I mean? $60 is already a stretch. It's not an easy thing to drop, and now you're asking for $70, $80, which again I think it's still justifiable, but because of that, you can see less games maybe even being made. Major games, AAA titles, and a lot more smaller titles in between to kind of fill in the gap. But the consoles, I think, will struggle coming out the gate. and I'm still ready to, I'm in a blessed position where my job is on a computer, and I was able to just come home and just work from home. But that's not the case, and I'm in a situation where I'm all right with getting it, but not many people are. So I think it's going to be an interesting fall. But yeah, I would love to hear your guys' thought as far as the price increase. And you guys want to message me on the group as well, just to give me your thoughts. We can always read them next week on the podcast. But I'm curious to hear what a lot of you guys think, because it's something that it's strange, because it's weird how this is the one media that has not gone up with inflation. Everything, it's remained stagnant. Everything else has, movie theaters, God, that's just gone up forever. Think of the popcorn prices back in 2005 versus now. It's like $10 for a bucket of popcorn. That's ridiculous. It's just popcorn. It's that has gone up. Everything else has gone up, but no, here we are still at $60. So I think this is a justifiable move, but at the same time, it's definitely going to drop some anchors on the launch of this particular next cycle. So, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to a shall we call it supplemental podcast? The real episode 219.5. Oh, 119.5. Dear Lord, how many are we at? It doesn't matter. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please go to goodgame.rock. Join the conversation there. Please like, subscribe, and share the podcast with everybody. Hopefully next week we'll have all three of us back, and we will, of course, be talking about some Scott Pilgrim and how awesome that freaking movie is, and how none of our wives like that shit at all. I hope you look forward to that. And again, I appreciate you guys tuning in and sticking with us through some technical difficulties. I miss my boys, but they will be with me next week. So we'll see you then. GG!